Welcome to the Titans Time Podcast, your Tennessee Titans podcast for the Pigskin Podcast Network. My name is Tanner Staggs. Joining me, as always, my brother Tyler Staggs. We've had some time now to process everything that's happened, and now it's finally time to get back onto the show, talk through things, and talk about it. But first, Tyler, tell everyone how they can support the show. As we probably need it right now because
we need that.
Be playing.
We need that little pick me up here. I mean, let's just be honest. And just to show everyone, we do read our comments. I had someone say that we're going to have to shorten this link up for the merch, but you're going to have to go check it out. And unfortunately, we can't make it any shorter. When we've tried to make it shorter, it doesn't actually carry you to all the merch that we have available. So you're going to have to go to titans-time.myshopify.com/collections/all. I know that link's long, but I promise you.
Find it in the description. That's the best thing you can do. Find the link in the description.
It'll be in the description of the audio version of the podcast and the YouTube description. It'll be there. Just go copy, paste, take you right to it. It's simple enough. Now, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, whether it be on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever podcast platform you listen on, make sure you rate us 5 stars. Make sure you're following the podcast, and make sure you leave some comments there. Let us know how we're doing, ways you think we can improve, or just what you like about the show. If you're watching on YouTube, scroll down. That subscribe button, if it's red, click it, turn it gray, turn on the post notifications so you never miss when we upload a video. Leave a like on the video. I know this is a down video. I'm still down. I don't know about Tanner. We haven't really talked about it. Leave us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on this game and share the video with your family, friends, other football fans, Bengals fans. If you're coming and checking this out, you may want to just stop after right here. Talk your shit, because I'm going to tell you, y'all didn't. I'll give you a little bit of credit. Y'all made the plays that you needed to make to finish off the game, but y'all did not win this game. We gave this game away. Now, Tanner, tell them where they can find us on social media.
Yeah, follow us on social media. On Twitter, Titans_time. On Facebook, Titans Time. And Instagram, Titans Time Podcast. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't know. I mean, they did what they needed to do to win. So.
Okay, so and we're gonna dive more into this. But before we really get into that, we were talking a little bit before we started the show here, and I'm gonna give everyone listening to the audio version of the podcast a little bit of warning. You're not gonna be able to see what pops up on the screen, but you may want to turn your volume down a little bit. If you're watching on YouTube, you may have to turn that volume down a little bit. But I want to get, Tanner, your reaction to this video clip that I'm about to play.
I seen my volume down a little bit.
I seen you turning the volume down a little bit. But Derrick Henry's return. We knew the stadium was going to be crazy. And I'm going to be honest with you. The stadium was like this up until the final kick went through the uprights. I mean, this was the best I've ever seen Nissan Stadium. This is the atmosphere that we need to have in Nissan Stadium every home game this next season, because I've never seen the stadium like this. So now I'm going to play whenever they announced Derrick Henry coming out of the tunnel for the starting lineup. I don't think they showed this on TV. If they did.
Yeah, they did.
All right. I don't know how the crowd sounded, but here we go. I mean, if that place had a roof, it would have blown off of that stadium. Like, you couldn't even hear the announcer announce Henry coming out. Like, that's how loud it was at that moment.
unfortunately, that hype didn't carry over into a 200-yard game from Derrick Henry. But I mean, that's what everybody was waiting for. Everybody was waiting for that moment, Derrick Henry to come out of the tunnel, and it's like that is the moment where it kind of all comes together, and he's back.
And the
But
way he come out of that tunnel, you would have thought that
he knew that the place was about to come down.
like it was crazy. And we didn't even hit on this, but yes, unfortunately, Titan season's over, losing the divisional round of the playoffs to the Bengals, 19-16. And I'm going to tell you, I think even though it seems like they haven't learned, a lot of Bengals fans were saying before this game, "Oh, Burrow, he shredded that defense last year. He's going to do it again." Joe Burrow was lucky that he could even see down the field by the end of this game. But me and you had talked about this some, how the Titans were going to start this game. And I met up with Titans Rossi before the game, and Titan Upload walked over with them, and I believe Titans for Life too. All of us walked over together, and we were all talking about, the first play of the game for the Titans offense. Like, we were like, how is this actually going to pan out? Are they going to go play action, or are they going to give the ball to Henry? We were talking about Bengals defensive coordinator. Are you like, how do you even get any sleep the night before the game? Because you could drive yourself crazy being like, okay, Henry's coming back. They're giving him the ball the first play of the game. But hey, what if they know that we're going to think that, so they're going to run play action, and just going back and forth like that all night. But I can tell you one person who was not confused at all and not worried about it, and that was Bates. I believe that's his name, for the Bengals, their safety, because Bengals ran cover 3 first play. The linebackers came up on the play action, bid on it, and Bates picked off Tannehill to start the game. And I will say, for that start to the game, like, you kind of had to have a reset in the stands, because there was all this hype, and then all of a sudden, boom, turnover right to start out. And
all the air just poof.
Yeah. So, like I said, you had to hit that reset button and be like, okay, we got to get our defense pumped up here.
Well, that didn't really take much. 9 sacks throughout the game, and it's not hard to get behind the defense. But, it's almost like, in a way, like a reverse psychology type of deal, because leading up to the game, we were like, okay, Derrick Henry's coming back. Everybody knows the ball is going to him. And then I think at some point along the way, it's like, okay, at this point, it's almost to where everybody knows that it's going to be a play action. And of course, that's what they run. Ryan Tannehill, I'm sure we're going to talk about him a lot throughout the course of this video, kind of, telegraphed it the whole entire way. And
yeah,
hey, listen, there's one thing that you got to give the Bengals props for, defense especially. These guys did their homework, and they, regardless of whether Tannehill telegraphed the pass, whatever, these guys on several occasions knew what was coming. Now, when you have a guy like Todd Downing that is across the field calling the plays, who knows how hard that is to know what's coming. I think everybody that's watched the Titans all season long could have probably called that game play by play before it happened. So,
yeah, and we'll get into Downing in a little bit too. And I had to check, just wanting to make sure it was Bates. And Bates even said on that interception to start the game, Tannehill was looking him down the whole way. And, I texted you right after Tannehill threw that pick, and I said, I think Tannehill was late on his throw. So you factor in being late on the throw, staring Julio down the whole way, and then where some of the blame gets thrown on Downing is, if you go back and look at that play, there's no one coming up either the middle of the field or if you're looking the way the Titans offense was, up the left side of the field, there's no one streaking up the field to even draw his attention to that side. I mean, the only two players running a deeper route were AJ and Julio. So, and they were on the same side.
Take this, for example. So, one play that I've always thought was brilliant from previous seasons from the Titans. If you go back to the playoff game that the Titans won against the Ravens, okay, so they ran a play action. I'm sure a lot of people remember the deep shot to Khalif Raymond. Probably what, a 40 plus 50 plus yard touchdown. Maybe
it was 40 something yards.
But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So play action to, fakes it to Derrick Henry. And I believe it was AJ Brown you have coming across the middle of the field from the right side. And Khalif Raymond is just on a streak going deep. So you kind of know, like, a lot of attention is going to be drawn to AJ Brown coming across the middle, and that's going to pull your safety up a little bit. And that's a perfect example of just what didn't happen here, because in the first case against the Ravens, which of course probably a better thought out play by what you can probably 100% say is a better offensive coordinator, the attention comes to AJ Brown, safety comes up over the top to Khalif Raymond, money, and then with this play, like you just mentioned, it just, like, there was only really one place for it to go, and Tannehill was staring it down the whole way.
Yeah, and that's not the way you want to start a playoff game against a team with a high-powered offense. But luckily, our defense come to play, because that first play for the Bengals offense, man, Joe Burrow, I mean, if he could have looked forward in this game and, of course, not seen the outcome, but just seen what was in store for him, he may have just walked to the sidelines after the first play and been done, because you had Danico Autry and Naquan Jones getting back there for a sack. And that really, I mean, the crowd had already got hyped, was being loud, trying to make it hard on the Bengals offense. That brought all the air back into the stadium for sure, them getting that sack. And, the Titans defense, they weren't perfect through this game. There were a couple of times they really struggled making tackles and getting players like Jamar Chase and some others down. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm screaming, tackle him, wrap up. Like, quit just trying to go for the big kill shot. Wrap him up and stop him. But I believe really the Titans should have had 2 sacks on the Bengals' first drive, but one of them got taken away because of a delay of game.
Now,
and go ahead.
Here's my question, right? So the delay of game got this. I don't know. I haven't really went back and thought about this, but I remember being confused during the game. The delay of game got automatically enforced, right?
Yes.
So
I believe
they would have been in a much better position because that was on 3rd down. It would have been a 4th down. You just got the sack.
Well, I'll say this. The reason the delay of game the penalty got accepted was because they blew the ball dead. So it was either it was either you let them stay where they were at or back them up 5 yards.
Okay.
So that's
because later in the game, there was a delay of game on the Titans that ended up being declined. Okay, yep. So they wouldn't have gotten the sack. That makes more sense.
Exactly. And so we talked about the Titans defense, 9 sacks. Really, they had 11 on the day, and 2 of them got taken away. 1 for this delay of game, and then 1 for the Bengals taking a timeout. Both cases, you couldn't hear a whistle in the stadium.
Also, the Bengals were really trying hard to call for a timeout right before the interception that, ultimately won them the game. So
right. And so just little things like that. But the delay of game, I went back, I made myself go back and rewatch this game. And I just want to say, for anyone wondering what took us so long to get this video out, record it, a couple days after the game, I still didn't really have a voice. Then you've been dealing with school, you've been sick this week, and I've been busy. So this is really the first chance we've gotten to record.
Well, I think
But
it was good too to kind of sit back for a couple days and just think about it. And
no,
because
it was.
if you if you had caught me, say, on Monday, the whole staff, like everybody, all the way from whoever, all the way down to the water boys and the third string defensive lineman, even though you can't complain about the pass rush, it would clean house. Like, I was so upset. But I
See,
mean,
I was wondering because, like I said, we didn't. This is the first time me and you are actually talking about the game, aside from a couple of texts back and forth during the game. And like I said, I've been hot all week. I mean, I have people at work coming up to me. What happened? Like, don't get me started. Like, and then another guy that just so happens to be a Ravens fan, he was like, "Man, I really thought that this was their year." Yeah, said I did too. I said I just knew that they were going to take care of business, and like I said, I made myself today because obviously we're recording almost a week after the game happened. I made myself go back and watch it, and I'm at the point of, those stages you go through. I'm at the point for where when I went back and rewatched this game, it like I was so mad that it was almost comical to me. Like I was driving myself insane because I'm like, how do you waste this defensive performance that the Titans defensive line put on? Tied the record for a playoff game with 9 sacks. How do you waste that? They had 5 sacks in the first half, and I didn't notice this till I rewatched it, but that's the most in a half in a playoff game since 2000, going back to the Music City Miracle. That game.
wow.
Like,
I'll just tell you. I mean, I was never. I mean, I guess you describe it. I don't know. I was never, I guess, really mad, but it was just kind of like matter of fact in my mind. Like, there has to be some drastic changes after this season, and I still haven't really changed my mind on that. I think that's why I've thought that it's so good to kind of take this time and now talk about this, is because I can't just say, okay, well, this might just be coming off of pure emotion from just being, a day or two out from seeing this game. But now, being roughly a week removed, it's like, okay, I still feel like there has to be some actual answers for this, because this is the third straight year where there's been real potential. This team has been capable for 3 straight years of beating any other team in the NFL. And that's all you need to win the Super Bowl, is just to be capable and then execute when you get into the playoffs. And consistently, this team has been inconsistent when they get into, or no, not even inconsistent. They have consistently just, been
came up short.
Yeah, came up short once you get into the playoffs. And there has to be something drastic. And I don't know if this is the time to talk about this or not. I don't know what your plans were for at this point in the show exactly, but I think that Ryan Tannehill is not going to be the guy that can win a Super Bowl for you.
Okay. So I do want to save that for a little bit later in the show because I want to get through more of the game, because this builds, and because I know opinions are split like crazy on Twitter. And I want to go ahead and put this out there while it's earlier in the show before we get to that talk. I am happy with how Ryan Tannehill, going back to the 2019 season, he helped turn that season around. He has helped lead us to 2 division titles. This year, he was without his weapons. He had Todd Downing calling the plays for the offense. So that's a hurdle in itself. And he was still able to get us to a 12-5 record. Defense did help out a lot in that as well. But he was a consistent for us on offense. He was out there every game. And I think Ryan Tannehill, good regular season quarterback. He can do what you need him to do. And I'm going to stop right there until we get to later in the show. But me mentioning Todd Downing, we talked about this. Titans had to have a fast start in this game. Hell, if they would have had a fast start with how their defense was playing, we would be doing a preview show right now for the Titans and Chiefs.
And Todd Downing is the arch nemesis of a fast start. Like,
I was watching A to Z, and do you know on opening drives how many points the Titans scored through counting this game? This game made 18. Do you know how many points they scored through 18 games on the first drive?
10.
17. But it felt like 10. So that, like, you can't start like that. I mean,
that's right, because they Texans game, the last game of the season, right? They scored first drive of that game.
I'm trying to remember for sure.
With Foreman, I think.
Either way. Either way. Do you know how many drives it took them to get their first score in this game? It was their fifth drive before they scored. And I want to say this, because I know there's been some Henry talk. Henry should have played against the Texans.
Hey, did I not say he needs to get out there?
You could tell he had some rust.
Absolutely. He's not. Okay, listen. Derrick Henry, great NFL running back. Okay. He's not. I mean, whatever nicknames you want to give him, like, he's probably a level above, every running back in the NFL, say with the exception of maybe Nick Chubb. And there's a couple of other guys that you would, maybe one or two other guys that you would throw on that same tier. And yeah, Derrick Henry, probably the best physically and just purely as an athlete out of all of those guys. Like, he is just a monster. He's still human. He's not Superman. You've got to treat him just like you would every other player when it comes to preparation. He should have played against the Texans at least enough to get 5 to 10 carries.
The first injury of his career. I mean, he said that, and you're taking, he's had screws and a plate put in his foot, had a plate in his shoe as well. When you're coming back from injury, we've seen it with Lawan and the ACL, and even Bud Dupree and his ACL. First game back is you're trying to still fill out that injury. It's different than practice. If he would have had those 5 to 10 carries against the Texans, we may have seen him look completely different this game. But you could tell that there were times where he seemed not as confident. And we'll get into this for the second half when we talk about it. But the 4th and 1 where he got hit, I went back and rewatched that. He stopped his feet. Like, he come up, he seen they were back there, and he hesitated. And I got to looking, and the left side of the field, he could have tried to break it outside and would have had one guy to beat to pick up the first down. And Henry before the injury, or Henry that is confident and doesn't have that rust and knows that he can plant that foot and turn, he's going to the left side there. And he's going to fight through that one guy and probably pick up that yard. But and there were times where we had flashes of, okay, he's going to be completely back from this. He just needed that reassurance because second half, he opened up the second half. He was getting 9-yard runs, 8-yard runs, 7-yard. Like he was starting to rip these runs off. But the Titans, he did score the first touchdown for the Titans. And like I said, 5th drive. I'm still Todd Downing. I do not understand you. And then Titans go to kick the extra point to go up by 1. Penalty on the Bengals. Titans decide, hey, moving it up to the 1, we'll go for 2. And this was another thing we kind of talked about a little bit. I just don't understand the logic on this as far as going for 2 right there. Whether you're up 1 or up 2, you can still lose by a field goal. I mean, if you take that extra point, and I know this if and buts, all that, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but if you do take that extra point into the game, you're up 17-16. That final drive, you're playing it completely different from what you were before.
Like, there's a completely bigger if than that, and it's 3rd and 1. You got 2 chances to get a first down, and the first one you waste with whatever that was.
It was a read option. I went back and watched the game. I've seen where some people said that it was
not an RPO.
It's
not RPO.
They said it was a lot of people are saying it was an RPO. I went back and looked at it. It does not look like an RPO to me. It looks like, because normally those RPOs, Tannehill, if he doesn't hand it to the running back, he's dropping back.
Yeah.
He pulled this with intent to run. And I do not understand why he didn't give it to Henry, because when I rewatched this game, the first person didn't touch Henry until he had already gained that yard.
And listen, I get it. Like the read option is a play that I've called for a lot this year. It's a great unexpected play that can get really
chunks of yards,
above expected returns in situations where you can kind of take on that risk. But when you have 2 downs and you need to get a first down in one of those 2 downs, it's not necessarily, and if it works, he's, maybe not so much on the hot seat, right? But just a simple sneak or 2 Derrick Henry runs up the middle in a row, like stick with what is going to be most likely to get that yard into it, even if it takes 2 plays.
We're like everyone else. You look at that 3rd down, it's not even 3rd and a yard. It's 3rd and like a foot. You QB sneak that every time, unless you're Todd Downing. I mean, because they're not going to stop that. You QB sneak it, new set of downs, you're good to go. But going back to the going for 2, like I just don't get it. If it puts you up by 3, then yes, okay, do that, because then it's technically then it's a 1-score game. But I don't get that.
I don't know. I'm not so much against it as you are, but I'm probably more pro take chances, take risks than most people would be when it comes to 4th downs and 2-point conversions. But even
well, and I
don't know.
Look, I will say that it's not like Henry was very far away from getting it. A guy come off of the left edge and just so happened to get to Henry like a half step early. that kept Henry from being able to reach the plane or breaking the plane. But either way, it comes back to bite you, because then instead of being up 1, it's a tie game, and all you've let the Bengals do is kick field goals.
Well, let me throw out this scenario, right? So say that the Titans did get that, and then it's 8-0, right? So
8-6.
8-6, sorry. So then say that the Titans go on and score again. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to rationalize it in my mind to where later on it would.
Well, I get what you're saying. Like, okay, say you go later on, Titans score again before the Bengals do. They kick the extra point. They're up 15-6. The Bengals score a touchdown, makes it 15-12. If they kick the extra point, they're down 2. If they go for 2, they're still down 1. If they go for 2 and don't get it, then they're down 3, so it's still that field goal. But again, that early in the game, I really don't understand it, because it didn't help anything. In my mind, that early in the game, you go ahead, take the lead. Like I said, if it puts you up by 3, then I could understand it more. But this seems like a good time now to take a break from talking about the game per se and go into our best bets segment presented by DraftKings. And Tanner, we're heading into conference championship weekend. I mean, only 4 teams remain in the NFL playoffs, and that means that there's only 4 teams left for you to bet on the DraftKings Sportsbook. And they are an official sports betting partner of the NFL. So counting down to Super Bowl 56, new customers can get 56-1 odds on any team. All you have to do is bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. Now, in order to do that, new customers, you're going to have to use promo code TPPN at sign up. I mean, that sounds like some pretty good odds to me there. I mean, if I was a new customer, I would definitely take advantage of it. We obviously don't give betting advice, so I would hate to tell you who to bet on, but feel like
it's going to be the Niners and Bengals.
Oh, hey, all right. We'll hop into that more in a minute. But if you're not a new customer, don't worry. DraftKings, they've got you covered, because you can experience the conference championship games with same game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. All you have to do, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TPPN at sign up and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code TPPN for 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, so let's get into, I guess, the moment that we will be crowning you the better.
Better. Okay.
As we officially close out the window for the best bets for this season.
And no matter how we would have went about it, if we kept it with the regular season or if we broke it apart into its own, even if we would have done double points for this one, things just did not work out in your favor.
No.
In this game. I mean, I believe you took the over on points, and you also went with a DraftKings special that they had out for Henry and Mixon to combine for 150 or more rush yards. And I'm going to look now. Mixon had 54 rush yards, most of which he did get in the second half. and Henry had 62. So didn't work out for you there. And to cover my two bets, unfortunately, I did take the Titans to cover 2.5 points. I thought they were going to win by 3. So that one went out the window. But I took advantage of another DraftKings special, and they had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, and Julio all over 50 yards receiving. It came down to the wire. Julio had like 40-something yards before his final catch. And he got that final catch that took him over 50. And I won me some money off of that one. So,
and I have to say, you've hit on probably a few, maybe more than a few, that have been better, like way better odds than just sitting at plus 100 even. So if you tracked your balance throughout and you just bet on all of your best bets, $1, $2, whatever, one standard bet across all of them, you would probably have come out this season pretty profitable.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it as far as percentage wise, I was right at 50%, right, or maybe a little bit over 50%. But then, like you said, some of these odds, I mean, I'll just say I bet $3 on that DraftKings special for all those guys to hit 50 yards receiving, and 118. And of course, afterwards, I'm kicking myself like, man, I should have put more down on that.
Well, at the time, you're like, okay, like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Julio, AJ, like 4 guys over 50. Okay, I don't know. But I mean, that's a tough one to put down, $10, $15, $20 on. But obviously, you're looking at afterwards. I mean, like, man, I could have won like 70, $80.
Yeah. So, but I mean, either way, I'll take it. And like you said, some of the ones that I threw out there this year, the odds were a little bit better on. So, I may have come out a little bit more profitable on them. But now I want to get to what you were saying. You're thinking it's going to be the Bengals and 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make – so obviously you have the rematch Super Bowl, Niners, Chiefs. It makes sense. But Joe Burrow is a young, elite quarterback in this league. And between him and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen in the AFC, you have a trio that the NFL probably hasn't seen in the same conference since, I mean, Manning, Brady, and Roethlisberger.
And you're leaving a guy out, really, that, he hasn't made that splash yet, but he's right there in Herbert.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love Herbert.
I mean, that's
as far as getting deep into the postseason, right, and making these matchups in the AFC Championship.
Now, hang on. Here's where I'm going to slow you down a little bit because, yeah, props to the Bengals, props to Joe Burrow. Second year, he's made it to the AFC Championship game. But
he's there.
No, yeah, but look, you got to pump the brakes just a little bit because you're calling him, elite here, where you have
Dude,
Josh Allen.
Burrow's elite.
He's got. I'm not. All right, putting this out there, not taking anything away from him, but when it comes to the postseason, you have Allen, who he's put together, a couple years in the playoffs here. This is the Bengals' first year in the playoffs.
Right.
Hell, these are their first 2 playoff wins in 31 years.
Right.
This past week was their first road playoff win. Before that, they were like 0-8. So, but you look at him compared to Mahomes, he's been, I think, to the championship 4 times and won 3 of them.
All right, so let me spin this to you now. Okay, so Mahomes has had ridiculous success. Like obviously, Chiefs have ran the AFC. So, what better way to set up this rivalry? Because Burrow's elite. I feel like whether you like it or not, like the dude is a good quarterback, and he's young, and not only that, but he has that likable personality that is going to make the NFL even more money. So, like the odds are in this guy's favor. I mean, I can see where you cannot like the guy from a standpoint of like, okay, he just beat our team, right? And you don't like to see him celebrating what just made you, upset, whatever. But like he's a likable guy. So what better way to set up this rivalry than for Burrow to come in his first time in the playoffs? They're on this run. They knock the Chiefs off, make it to the Super Bowl. Who knows who wins at that point? But you have now set up this great rivalry that Josh Allen is kind of third wheeling. Like, yeah, they easily could have been in that AFC Championship game, and he's the guy that is going to be fighting to get back into there next year. You have this trio of quarterbacks that are, duking it out to make it to the Super Bowl every year out of the AFC side. And who knows, maybe you attract Aaron Rodgers to the two-tone blue, and he throws his hat in the ring too.
So, right now, that rivalry in the AFC, I get what you're saying. That rivalry is Allen and Mahomes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's going to be the one that's set up. Burrow is going to, and this may be a hot take. I may be completely wrong. Burrow is going to be the Ben Roethlisberger of this group.
No, dude. Josh Allen screams Ben Roethlisberger. Josh Allen,
no.
Literally, his body frame, the way that he plays, like he oozes Ben Roethlisberger.
I'm not talking about body frame, all of that. I'm talking about the success that they're going to have. The Bengals will make the playoffs with him, this and that. Yet, he may get you a Super Bowl or two. But, and I know when you talk about Manning, he only has a couple rings. But that Manning and Brady rivalry, that is what's starting to form between Allen and Mahomes. You get where I'm coming from?
Because I do.
They've already started having their battles here.
I know, but I think you're sleeping on Burrow.
All right, well, but okay, this is a talk for a whole nother podcast here.
But hey, Bengals, 49ers. I'm putting my prediction out there. So we'll see how it goes. Chiefs, Rams.
Because I think it sets it up. Last year you had the Buccaneers, first team to play in their home stadium for the Super Bowl. Out in LA, Rams have went all in. You have Matt Stafford out there. Never won.
And that would just be great to see that guy
I'm gonna get
what he deserves.
Obviously, going back to the Rams-Titans Super Bowl, like I get the hatred for the Rams. I'm pulling for the Rams though, solely because of Stafford. I want to see the guy get one. I mean, just simple as that.
But because that's what ultimately is going to push him to that Hall of Fame status.
Yeah, and he has. It's funny throwing this out there, considering Vrabel's press conference the next day. But Stafford has elite toughness. Don't know if you've seen that Vrabel press conference or anything. That's how he started off talking about Tannehill, is elite toughness. And you have to give Tannehill his props. He took a beating this year. I mean, I think he was sacked 40-something times, like 47. And 48 if you count the playoff game. And he was out there every game. But Stafford, dude,
he's like next level tough.
Yeah, dislocating his arm, going back in, throwing either the 2-point conversion or whatever it is that time. just I want to see Stafford get one. That's
Stafford
my
is the
point of view.
type of guy that you would see on the injury report with like literally like something fractured in his spine or something, and he would still like it's questionable. He's not even out. But yeah, I mean, he gave so much of his prime career to a subpar organization, and he deserves a Super Bowl win.
He does. And okay, so coming back to this Bengals Titans game, there's really only a couple things in the second half I want to hit on. Titans run defense, for the most part throughout the whole game, was crazy how good it was. Bengals opening drive, Mixon got a little bit going. He was able to get him a rushing touchdown. Titans come out to start their first drive of the second half, and man, it's looking so promising. You have Derrick Henry ripping off a couple big runs, and then you have Foreman who rips off a 45-yard run, and that you feel the energy in the stadium. It's building up. You're like, okay, they're fixing to go score a touchdown here. Get down to, I believe it's the 9-yard line or something like that. Yeah, get down to the 9-yard line. Like I said, Foreman just had this big run. You would think, give it to him again. He's starting to shred this defense a little bit. No, Todd Downing decides to go back to an RPO, and No Flags Film on Twitter broke this down really good. This RPO that he went to, he used the exact same formation that he used earlier in the first half, where Hilton almost made a play on it in the first half. When they ran this RPO in the first half, do you know how many yards they gained off of it?
Like what, 3?
3. So you get
Surprised
down
I
to
remember
you get down to the 9-yard line after a big Foreman run. Give him the ball again, or put Derrick Henry in. Give him the ball. You're starting to wear this defense down a little bit. And there's even been a video out where Hilton is talking on the sidelines, and he said, I'm going to pick it. They knew that it was going to be coming again. And instead of changing up the formation or anything, same exact formation. He knew it was coming. He showed us nickel blitz. He started coming in. He knew Tannehill was going to throw it. He even said that on the side. He's going to throw it. He widened the path that he was taking, and Tannehill still tried to throw it over him, tipped it up, picked it off. Second interception for Tannehill. Now, the majority of that blame is going to Todd Downing.
Yeah.
For being that freaking obvious, running out of the same formation, running an RPO at the 9-yard line when you're in position for at least a field goal. Like, at that point, I don't care if you run it 3 times and have to settle for the field goal. That's better than the interception.
But it looks fancy, and it looks good on your resume if it works.
But I am going to put a little bit on Tannehill, because as I rewatched that game, before Tannehill ever turns the ball loose, I'm like, you can see him widening out. This isn't like a defensive tackle or someone like that you can try and throw over or put it up out of their reach. Even if he got it over Hilton, Rodgers, I don't think, would have gained anything, and it may have been picked off by the Bengals safety, because with the way Tannehill would have had to float it up, that ball would have been in the air a long time. You see him widen out. Why not tuck that ball and just run up the middle? Not saying you're going to pick up a lot, but it's better than a turnover.
Or just drop, take the loss. Like,
yeah,
your play's blown up anyways. So
I I don't get that. And then, of course, Titans, couple possessions later, get a break, tip ball, and Amani Hooker makes a hell of a play to pick it off. I'm talking to people in the stands. There's a guy next to me, and he's like, man, it hit the ground. I said, yeah, but look at it. I said, he has his hands on both sides of it, and the ball doesn't move. I said, he got his hands on it before it touched the ground. I said, now, if it would have touched the ground and moved, then yeah, it's not a pick. I said, but that ball didn't move. That's an interception. And, I did message you because it was before they showed the replay in the stadium. I was like, did he get it? And you were like, yeah, he got it.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where, like, obviously the announcers were back and forth on it, whatever. But, like, what you said is exactly right. Like, I didn't think there was any question of whether or not he got it. I mean, he had control of it, whatever, hit the ground, but, like, he had a strong enough grip on it that, like, it wasn't coming out of his hands. Amani Hooker, one of those guys, I think he played, like, excellent. Aside from maybe, like, some tackling issues, I don't know. I didn't go back and watch the game. But
he had,
I think he played a great game. Like, you can put him up there in that, like, status with the pass rush and be like, you feel bad for these guys because they played so great.
like you said, Hooker, he did play great because the Bengals drive before he got the interception, Burrow threw a pass to T. Higgins that was right at the sticks and probably would have been a first down. And Hooker come in and laid a hit and knocked the ball out.
Yeah. Also, Hooker's responsible for, I think it was Jamar Chase that had like a breakaway play, and Hooker
got in front of him to slow him down.
Yeah,
and
got
let
in front
Cunningham.
of him. Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, Hooker was all over the place. And his interception set up what I believe was Ryan Tannehill's best throw of the game. Actually, I know it was. Back shoulder to A.J. Brown. Great ball placement. Hell of a catch. I mean, A.J. literally just had to turn his hand out and let it fall right into the breadbasket. I mean, it was simple as that. And before I forget, I do want to hit on this. I don't know what has happened to Ryan Tannehill's deep ball this year, aside from this one that we talked about, and maybe in the Kansas City game where he dropped a couple in the bucket. But there have been plays where he's had Julio wide open, streaking down the field. Would have been a walk-in touchdown, and he overthrows him. This game, early in the game, he had a shot to AJ on a play action. AJ had 2 steps on the corner. He overthrew him. There was another play, AJ coming across the middle deep, where if Tannehill puts it out in front of him, AJ's probably breaking away for a touchdown. But he puts it kind of right on him, a little bit behind him, and AJ has to slow down. He gets tackled. And then there was another one where I don't know if it was just a lapse in coverage by the Bengals or what. And I know this was earlier in the game as well. AJ called a long ball and got tackled down because he had to stop and wait on it to get there. So, like I said, I want to give Tannehill props for that one throw to AJ because it was right where it needed to be. But that was definitely his play of the game.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I mean, it just goes back to a lot of things. Like Tannehill, like you can't argue this season he's seen some regression, and there's been he hasn't had the most help at times, but your quarterback is supposed to be the guy that you can rely on kind of regardless. I mean, great quarterbacks. Take Tom Brady, for example. And I know that's a hard guy to compare somebody to. Like, it's hard to live up to Tom Brady. But he's a guy that can make do with whatever he has. Like, he makes his receivers better. I think that a lot of times, instead of Tannehill being a guy that makes his receivers better, he is often a recipient of, what can his receivers give him.
Well, and I want to go over this one last thing, and then we're going to get into more Tannehill talk. Sorry, guys, this is going to be a longer pod because I think we both have some stuff to get off our chest, and especially with the team going forward. But Titans' last drive, for one, I don't think their clock management was that good. They had 2 timeouts going into this. It started with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, and by the time they started getting around midfield, really wasn't even at midfield, there was less than a minute left. Like, I don't really understand what was going on there with the time management. But coming down to their last drive, like I was saying, Julio catches a pass that gets them to the 35. And I believe after he caught that pass, he come off the field and he wasn't back out there anymore. And I really do not get that. Biggest drive of the game, Julio and AJ should not be coming off the field. Like, Downing should not be taking them off the field unless they are hurt. Simple as that. And coming down to the third down play where Tannehill threw his third interception, this makes 2 years in a row where Tannehill has went to not his star players in a key situation. You think back to the Baltimore game last year, because I went back and I looked at the last play for the Titans of that game. He tried to throw to Khalif Raymond. Khalif Raymond slipped. It got picked off. You look at the left side of the field, A.J. Brown had beat man coverage, streaking up the field. All he had to do was look left. He had time. He could have hit A.J. in stride, and they could have scored in that game. This game, A.J. wasn't open, like he was taking attention in the middle of the field. Julio wasn't out there. He tries to go to NWI. Eli Apple was all over the route. He knew it was coming. Batted it up in the air, made a play on the ball. A lot of people were calling for pass interference, but as much as I would have loved for that to have been called and extended the drive, I think he was just making a play on the ball and was in good position. But if you look, Tannehill had several options. He had Ferkser right in front of him. Like, yeah, he was only like a yard or two in front of the line of scrimmage. But if he throws it to him, the Titans probably pick up the first down because the closest defender was like 8 yards away from Ferkser. So he could have probably fought through that, got the first down. Or at least got it close to where they could punt and pin the Bengals deep. Tannehill also had Hilliard to his left. Granted, right at the line of scrimmage, but if he would have threw it to him, Hilliard probably could have caught it on the run with a little bit of space. Same situation as Ferkser. Or Tannehill also had enough room that he could have escaped the pocket and either ran to try and get the first down like we've seen him do several times throughout the year, or at least buy some time for, it's scramble drill at that point. Receivers can do whatever, find an open spot. He could have done something different, but I feel like when he walked up to the line, he already knew where he wanted to go with it, and he was locked in on it. My wife's been saying this to me all year long. Tannehill gets the play call, and he sticks with it. He doesn't change that play call up. I don't know if he doesn't have clearance to do that at the line of scrimmage. Like you look at that 3rd and 1 that we talked about, the 4th down play. Like you take a Aaron Rodgers, a Tom Brady, someone like that, they're changing that play call to what they know is going to work. And Tannehill also has a bad habit of whoever his hot receiver is in these critical moments, whoever that play's designed for, That's who he's going to.
And that leads us into the next topic of the show, which, I mean, you could make it more broad than just talking about Tannehill. And let's just say, so where do we go from here? Because just to kind of lay down the foundation again, this is 3 seasons in a row. This team has been good enough to potentially go win a Super Bowl and has came up short. And now this is the point where teams begin to make a decision. There have been a lot of teams throughout the history of the NFL that have been good teams, and then they come up short. There becomes a breaking point where you say, okay, we're right there. We got to make some type of substantial move that will either push us to that next level or, maybe it sets us back a little bit. But it's better than staying stationary where we're almost there but can't quite make it.
We have a Super Bowl caliber team. Like, this is our window. The only difference is we don't have the quarterback to get us there. And that's hard for me to say because I have been a Tannehill defender. And that's why I said earlier, I am grateful for what Tannehill has been able to do with this team. 2 division titles. And if this next year or however long that Tannehill is the quarterback of this team, he's going to have my support. I'll support him. Regular season, I know he'll get done what needs to be done. But when it comes to the postseason, I've said this about other quarterbacks, he's going to have to prove me wrong now. Because as of right now, when it comes to the postseason, I do not believe that he can get us to a Super Bowl and win it. Unless Derrick Henry has 170-plus yards in every game.
Well, and that just comes down to, if a team really wants to stop Derrick Henry, they will, and they'll leave it up to Tannehill.
Mentioning Henry, sorry, I'm jumping back to the game. There was one run where I thought Henry was fixing to ice the game. It was, I can't remember if it was to start their last drive. He busted it to the outside. There was one defensive back. The defensive back was coming high on Henry. Henry loaded up, was fixing to hit that stiff arm, and I'm telling you, all he had in front of him was green grass. He was about to hit, everyone knew he's about to hit that stiff arm, and in true Henry fashion, he is going to ice this game and take it the distance. He loaded up. It looked like the defensive back slipped a little bit, and that caused him to be just a little bit further away than Henry expected. Henry went to go forward, and it caused him to slip. And he only picked up 3 yards.
Well, that would have been a good way to end it. But I'm going to break this kind of down into 2 different things, I guess. What needs to happen, I think, and what I think realistically could happen. So, scenario number 1, what I think needs to happen, you get rid of Downing, find someone who knows what the goal of the offense is, which is to score points and not to just do, whatever, run the clock out.
A lot of people are saying Tim Kelly. He's not with Houston anymore.
Whoever it's got to be, I just go get someone who knows how to run offense. Go get someone who is I don't know, just not Todd Downing. Get someone who's willing to recognize where they're, I guess, coming up short and can adapt to that. I think that's what makes a great coach more than anything else. Second, get rid of Ryan Tannehill at whatever cost it takes and make the whatever blockbuster move, whatever you need to do to put a guy behind center that can win a Super Bowl. Because I'm telling you, I don't know when it's going to be, but there's going to come a time when Derrick Henry is no longer going to be the running back that we've seen in, his peak playoff performance when he was, running all over the Patriots, running all over the Ravens, and then obviously his 2,000-yard season as well. That season could be next season. I know a lot of people aren't really ready to face that. He's coming off of an injury. Next season could be the season that it comes to, fruition that Henry's not exactly Henry anymore. It could be the season after that.
I disagree, but go ahead.
It could be the season after that. But, father time for running backs is sometimes unpredictable. And one thing that is predictable about it is that it comes earlier than just about every other position. So you need to get a guy as quickly as you can that can win it. Now, what realistically could happen, get a better offensive coordinator, run it back with Tannehill, because he does have a tricky contract. So I think that's sort of the easy way out, is to get another offensive coordinator and say, listen, here's what we believe the problem is. We have faith in Tannehill. And I'm okay with that. I can run one more year because he's a good quarterback. And while he's not going to go and win you a Super Bowl, maybe a combination of your defense and Derrick Henry with a reasonable quarterback like Tannehill and an offensive coordinator that can really put him into good positions, maybe that will win you a Super Bowl. Maybe the stars align and there is a scenario there. So I'm okay with that. But I will say this. If Todd Downing, I don't know what the whole I have not paid any attention necessarily to the press conferences other than what I've seen as far as Vrabel saying that Downing is a great coach. If Todd Downing is still the offensive coordinator for this team next season, that is a complete and utter failure for the coaching staff and the front office of the Tennessee Titans. And someone has to answer for that. And like in my mind, 100%, Todd Downing is going to be gone. And if that doesn't happen, I just don't know where I see this team, honestly. If they can't see that he needs to be out the door, then I don't know if I can. I mean, I believe it's a waste of time to continue watching the team next season if they can't see that he has been such a big problem.
Wow, getting some feelings out there. I'm nervous that they are going to give Downing another shot. And I know a lot of people have been saying that they're almost trying to compare it to, or they're not almost, they're saying, look what happened with Shane Bowen. Defense was bad last year. Now look at them this year.
You have to look at what they did to the defense. The defense was bad because of the players that were on the defense. And I know that I talked some crap about Shane Bowen, but they completely revamped that defense. And that's why it's been great this year.
Yes, they did that. The other thing, because we talked about this several times last year, we said, we don't know if it's Vrabel to blame for the defense, if it's Shane Bowen, whoever it is. We don't know. The biggest difference was Shane Bowen did not actually have that defensive coordinator title. And it does make a difference because now he's going around meeting with all the position groups. He's getting them all together. They're all on the same page. Whereas last year, he was just still the outside linebacker coach. That was his title. So he wasn't going around and meeting with all these other groups. So that's a completely different situation because, yes, you can make, I guess, the argument for Downing. Well, look at all the players on offense they were missing this year. He was kind of set up. No, he had all of his players for this playoff game. He had all of his stars, and he still couldn't make it work. He was so predictable with his play calling.
Here's the
And
thing that I will say.
he has the title of offensive coordinator. So he's been able to lead all the meetings.
Even more than that, here's what I'll say about why this is completely different than the Shane Bowen situation. Todd Downing was not only terrible for the Titans this season, Todd Downing was terrible for the Raiders.
The one season that he was there.
The one season that he was there. And they were smart enough to say, hey, this guy is bad news. Like, he could completely wreck our offense. And, Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback. So if we get a guy in here that can do something with this offense, we should be in at least okay shape. Don't get me wrong. Raiders aren't going to be going and winning any Super Bowl with Derek Carr, but they're a terrible team if they have Todd Downing as the offensive coordinator.
So now, want to hit on this, and this will be the last thing we hit on because we went a lot longer than we usually do on these shows. But again, there was a lot to unpackage, a lot of feelings that we needed to get out there because we haven't been able to talk about this. I've told everyone at work that'll listen to me what my thoughts are, and I'm sure my wife is tired of hearing me talk about it. But a lot of people are talking. Make a deal with the Packers or make a deal with the Seahawks or draft a quarterback in an early round. Put pressure on Tannehill. And I think you mentioned Tannehill's contract, everything. I don't know that anything could get worked out for Rodgers. I don't know that Green Bay would want to take on Tannehill since it looks like they're about to start a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out. They may take him to push Jordan Love a little bit.
Exactly. Jordan Love has been terrible.
But if a deal were to possibly get worked out, I think that Seattle might come closer to doing something than Green Bay would. I could be wrong. Me personally, I think more than likely we're going to see Tannehill leading this team next year.
Yes.
And again, if that's the case, he has my full support. But if it came down to the Titans trying to make that blockbuster move, I think Seattle and Russell Wilson might be more of where it goes. And, which this will be a show that we get into more possibly this next week or something like that. Titans, their cap situation right now is not looking the best. They're going to have to make some tough decisions. We may be talking about seeing a different offensive line this next year.
Well, that's probably not a terrible thing in some ways.
In some ways, but I'm going to kind of leave a cliffhanger here. Either something's going to happen with Lewan or something's going to happen with Roger Saffold.
Saffold, all day.
The tackle stuff not working out the past couple years kind of pushes that narrative more. Because Isaiah Wilson, we know how that worked out. Quessenberry was not a good right tackle. So you're going to need Radens to plug in there this next year. You don't want to use another first-round pick on a tackle to try and replace Lewan. I personally want Lewan back. I do. Find a way to change his deal up to where it helps the cap out. And even, I know Roger Saffold's getting older. He went down a lot over this season. He's going to get surgery on his shoulder. Maybe find a way to change his contract up some, but like I said, we'll leave that for another day. We've already been going on for well over an hour here. So I don't know if you have anything else you want to throw out about this game or Todd Downing, Ryan Tannehill, but that's actually all I have.
Not really anything other than if Todd Downing doesn't have to answer for bringing the team down this season, then I'm out.
Oh,
I'm out.
on,
I'm
man.
out on the Titans.
Come on.
If Todd Downing's not, if Downing's not out, I'm done.
One more thing I did think of. I will say, as close as the Titans were in 2019 to making it to the Super Bowl, this loss here, I think, sticks, and yes, it's the most recent loss, but it is going to stick with me so long. Like, it's a heartbreaking loss because of the way the defense played. The defense deserves so much better for how they played. I mean, I think about it every day several times. 9 sacks. And then you have Quentin Spain or whatever his name is for the Bengals trying to talk crap on Twitter to Simmons. Like, oh, if he's a real one, he'll tell you what I said. Like, dude, your offensive line gave up 9 sacks. Simmons dominated your O-line. Like, you cannot be talking it like that. And apparently, here, you said the Bengals are going to make it to the Super Bowl. I'll tell you why they're not going to make it. They got a game coming up with the Chiefs on Sunday. We're recording this on Friday. So 2 days. They're still talking about the Titans, making comments about how the Titans were scared to play them. Like, apparently y'all were watching a much different game from us because it looked like Joe Burrow was scared of the Titans' defense to me. And you called Joe Burrow elite. Meant to mention this earlier. Got to give the dude props. Apparently during the game, his headset, or where they call the plays down to him in his helmet, it went out. And he called his own plays on that drive. And they worked.
Dude's elite.
So I got to give him props for that.
You're calling him Ben Roethlisberger. Like, come on.
Big Ben was good.
He was good. He was good. But that's the most Peyton Manning thing I've ever heard in my whole entire life. Or Brady. Whatever. The dude is, he's one of the next great quarterbacks. And I hate to say that, but I like the guy.
Let's say the biggest difference is between these guys and Brady, Manning, and Roethlisberger. All these guys are athletic and can run. Too.
Exactly.
I mean, so that is all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got too. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. This has been Titans Time, and as always,